Welcome to the Pro Wrestling Production Podcast. For those in pro wrestling production, by those in pro wrestling production, through interviews, stories, and conversation. Our hosts, Nick, camera guy Gimmick, Martin from Wrestling with Unicorns.
You know the risk of fucking taking clips.
And Henry from Magickasart.
Where's Henry? There's Henry!
Break down how promoters, wrestlers, refs, announcers, and marketing teams can utilize photography and videography of their live events for brand building and promotional efforts. And now, the guys.
So we're here with the one, the only, my favorite boss ever, and I'm not saying that because he is my boss, but like, I'm legitimately, he knows this because I say it to him privately and I say it behind his back to everybody else. He is the best guy to work for ever. I don't care what indie show you run. You're not running it like this guy. I'm going to murder his last name, but I still love him. Steve Tortorello, did I say it right?
You've never murdered it once. Why were you so afraid?
Yeah.
I just don't want to disappoint you. That's what's wrong.
I'm glad I've beat that kind of emotional fear into you. That's good.
It's not you I'm afraid of. It's Tiff and the other women on the team that I'm definitely afraid of. But anyways, President of Warrior Wrestling, Mr. Steve Tortorello. I did it twice and I nailed it.
2 for 2, baby. Quit while you're ahead.
I wanted to kick it off. The whole point of sitting down with you is to really get the promoter's point of view. So I know what it's like to show up at this show as a photographer, as a videographer, but I don't know what it's like to hire me. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for people to fear me, first of all. No, I think it depends on the specific production need. Honestly, it doesn't start with the person. It starts with what does the show and the company and the organization need, right? So like you might be, I'll pick a random made up thing here, right? Like you might be the best basket weaver to ever walk the earth. And you're like, can I come basket weave for Warrior Wrestling? It's like, we don't need a basket weaver. Like you're awesome. And you're the best basket weaver to ever weave a basket, but we don't need baskets woven. And it comes down to what do we need as a promotion. And so for indie wrestling, it's a combination of still photography, camera work, short video camera work like the Unicorns do, post-production work, pre-production work, etc. So it comes down to what do we need, and are you that person very good at the thing that we need, and are you a great person to work with? Are you reliable? Are you level-headed? Do you follow through on stuff? Are you timely? And that really, that's it, to be honest with you. And honestly, so much of it is by trial and error, right? Somebody shows up and they're like, hey, can we take pictures for you? Sure, why not? You can't stay away from ringside, but you can take pictures around the venue. And we find that they have absolutely an amazing eye for photography and a great thought or a great way to approach things. So for example, Josh Ray, right? Like Josh joined our team last year and started with just saying, can I come take some pictures? Ringside was already too filled up. And so he took pictures around the venue in South Bend. And we saw just the way he looked at a show and the way his lens found things. And we knew, all right, well, we've got something special here. To be fair, there have been a variety of other people through our 29 shows who have said the same thing. Can I come take pictures? And again, usually ringside is spoken for, and they'll take some pictures around the show and send us some stuff. And they're pictures. They're not bad. They're just pictures. But sometimes you get somebody like Nick or somebody like Josh or somebody like Ian, or in the early days, somebody like Basil, and they have a view or a way of shooting that stands out and is different. So it's a combination of what do we need? Are you really good at what we need? And are you the kind of worker we want around? If all three of those things line up, there's a chance that we're going to bring you in and have you work with us. If one of those things is missing, it's probably not going to work.
Yeah. So why am I on the team then? No,
I have no idea. None whatsoever.
He just showed up. I don't know.
I mean, I don't even know if you're on the team, to be honest.
But, yeah, I think I'm breaking the restraining order right now. I think that this isn't supposed to be happening.
It included digital meetings. So yes, I am going to have to call the police.
Oh, Steve, I have a serious question for you. Very serious. Do you pay in hot dogs?
I pay in hot dogs, pizza, sometimes little Asian spice meatballs when we're in South Bend. I know, right? Yeah.
Those
It's
was
a
a
variety of things.
There was a conversation right next to the ring one time about the food in the back in South Bend. We were all ringside going, "Did you eat that, bro?" And we're like, "Yes." So please don't stop doing that. Like,
Yeah, dude. Yeah, like I remember. This was in South Bend. It was myself, Nick, and you, and we were literally all three of us talking about the like little small meatballs, and we were just we were talking about the whole match, but like it was like crazy because they were so good,
They were so good.
delicious.
Yeah.
So please never stop.
Deal.
Never stop. Oh, but yeah, like in serious, when do you feel when like somebody should be getting paid, or do you feel like production people are the same way as the wrestlers paying their dues?
Great question. I think there's two different ways to think about it. One of it, like my answer to the first question, comes back to what the promotion needs and what the promotion can do, right? So, like, let's say you have somebody, and don't make it a fictional thing. Let's say you have this phenomenal photographer or phenomenal videographer, and they're like, "Hey, I'd like to come work for your promotion. It costs X." You might want them. They might be the best, but you might not have X to spare. Like you just don't have it in your budget. And so sometimes then, the talent, the photographer, videographer, graphic designer, whatever, might get really upset. Like, "Oh, but don't you value me?" Yes, absolutely. I don't have X in the budget for this show. And so I can't bring you on board. So some of it always comes back to the promotion and the show and the organization. And a lot of times people feel like it's about them or their worth when it actually starts the other way. It's what does the promotion have to spare? What does the promotion have budgeted? And that sometimes answers that question. So sometimes whether how you pay somebody or whether you pay somebody depends on that. It also depends on the way that they come in as well, too. Like, for example, photographers, like I said, we've had a number of photographers come through over the years. And when we've already got, Basil locked down or Nick locked down or Ian locked down or one of those guys who we are paying for the show and who are providing us pictures that we're paying for after the show, and a new person comes in and they're like, "Hey, can I be a photographer?" I will often tell people our paid positions are spoken for this show. You are more than welcome to hang out, come by, show us your work, so that we can get to know you, but our paid positions are spoken for. So sometimes it's determined by what are the needs of the promotion. Other times it's determined by where are they in line, so to speak, right? If I'm already paying for 2 photographers or 3 videographers, I'm not going to pay for another, but you can come show us your work and possibly build a relationship. And I think part of that, the key is always being clear, right? What we will never do at Warrior is say, "We'd love to have you take pictures," and you think you're getting paid, and at the end of the night, we don't pay you. I think you've got to be clear up front with folks, number one. And then I think, again, it comes back to what are the needs of the promotion?
Yeah, that's so true because like I'm always gonna remember when you hit me up for the first Warrior show when like I was like barely starting too, it's like and you gave me an opportunity, it's like and like what you were saying, it's like what was like the needs at the time, it's like for Warrior, like ever since then, like since Warrior 2, because like I couldn't make it to Warrior 1, but like, ever since Warrior 2, like I've been a part of the team, it's like and like I always appreciate you always only having me or my brother ringside, so
yeah,
thank you for that.
Because you guys run short clips for us, and if there's ever a show where you guys can't be there and someone else wants to do it, then we'll consider somebody else. But again, like you've got that spot, you've owned that spot, you've earned that spot. The spot is yours.
Thank you, appreciate that.
100%, because he makes my life easy. But I think that exactly what you're talking about was my story too. Like, I showed up for Warrior just with a friend that was in news, and I was shooting stuff for him for his site, and you were gracious enough to let that happen. And then I made a little highlight video because I fell in love with this dastardly clown, right? and it just happened to be the night that Lance Archer dumped Frank the Clown off the bleachers, and I made a ridiculous video that was way over the top with violins and black and white and a bunch of stuff, and you guys were like, no, this is kind of cool. Piggybacking on what you were saying, like, what does the company need? There might be other ways where you can make yourself helpful, where you can earn a spot, a paid spot, that you might not be able to get just staying in a certain niche. Make yourself useful to guys like Steve, and they know value when they see it, and then your day will come. So
yeah, I'll make a comparison to the teaching world. So obviously my day job is education, and in teaching, unless you have a very, very, very specific field, right? Like unless you teach calculus or Mandarin Chinese or something like that. If you're a good English teacher, but not great with the literature, but you're a phenomenal worker and phenomenal at working with the kids, and you're organized and you work hard, we can help you get better at the literature piece. We can help you get better at the social studies piece. Whatever it is you're teaching, the things you cannot instill in someone are their work ethic, how they treat other people, the attitude that they bring, the vibe that they bring, etc. So if you're a production person out there and you'd love to work at Warrior Wrestling, for example, but we've got photographers, videographers, etc., come help in some way. Let me, Henry, Eric, Tiffany, Dominic, etc., let the team see your vibe, your attitude, your hard work, the way that you show up, and we'll find ways to put you to work. And you might find a way into the thing that you wanted to do, or you might find a new thing you didn't even know about that becomes your thing. But the key is, and this goes back to Martin's question from a minute ago, sometimes you have to volunteer your time. Sometimes you have to show the organization who you are and what you're going to bring to the table before you find a way to get yourself paid for your expertise or your skills or your time, simply because they don't have a budget for great guy or girl we found off the street. So you be that great guy or girl we found off the street, and then be so good that the organization now budgets to have you be part of the regular operation.
Wrestling fans have so many options. Like, everybody streams now, everybody does something to get their product out there. What's your perspective on coaching that team to deliver like the unique branding that's going to make Warrior different and offer something unique for the wrestling fan?
I think some of it comes naturally. People will stay with the brand that they get and wrap their head around, and fall away from a brand that they don't get or that doesn't speak to them. And I think we have found that there is a brand to Warrior there, and it feels like a pep rally. It feels in your face. It feels like a festival. It feels like it feels a way different than other promotions feel. Not better or worse, just different, right? It's our flavor. And everybody you just listed, Josh, Nick, Martin, yourself, all of you naturally capture things in the flavor like you're in the moment, like the wrestler's coming into your face, like you're coming around the corner, and your expertise matches the product that we're building, and it matches the thing that we're trying to put out. So there wasn't really a lot of coaching with all the guys that we just listed, so much as finding the people who do the thing that matches what we're doing. Right. So think about it in movie terms. If we were directing a very quiet, introspective drama, the cinematographer who shoots Transformers movies isn't going to be drawn to working on that drama, nor would they be the right fit for that drama, right? It kind of finds people who bring that specific skill set. So I think it's not so much the coaching that I've done so much as it's finding the people and welcoming in the people that like the same vibe that we're doing, and then collectively that vibe bleeds out. I think for an online presence, it's important that the online presence of a promotion matches its live vibe. And I don't think that's just true of us. I think there's other places that do it really well, and they have totally different vibes than us. Like, they have a totally different way that they function than us, but they're also able to capture it online in a way that matches what they do. And I think that's so important. So it's finding the people whose vibe matches your vibe, and then there's not much coaching really needed.
Yeah, I have to coach the shit out of Martin. No, I'm just kidding. No.
All the time.
The only thing I've ever said to Martin is, extend the clips longer and chase them. We love it when you're running after them, bro. That's like your best stuff.
Yes.
Like there's this voyeuristic rawness to it, and like it's awesome.
Well, and Henry and I have talked about this, Martin. I don't know if he's brought up to you in the 2004 Rise and Fall of ECW DVD. They talked to Rob Buffone, who is the director of ECW TV. And Rob and Paul had talked early on that they wanted to shoot it totally different than WWF and WCW were shot. So they had what they called a coming around the corner vibe, which was instead of framing it beautifully like you're shooting a sports game, Paul Heyman would rather have Rob and his camera people catch it from around the ring corner while someone's flying over the top and the camera's coming around the ring. It just makes the viewer feel like you're there in the ECW arena. And that's something that when Henry puts together the post-produced extended cuts of our shows, he uses your footage, Josh's footage, etc., to make it feel that way. We also in 2021, Mike Fernari did one of those what we call ringside films. He did a couple of them, but he did the one about Trey and Lee Moriarty that just felt different than any wrestling I had seen at that point. And we created that one because it was during the pandemic era where everybody was so far away in the stadium. Yeah. We commissioned that because we said, can we get a shot of this that's really close? It was a technical wrestling match in a giant space. Can we film it really close so that when you watch it on video, it feels like they're breathing down your neck? And that was just super unique and super cool. So I think it all comes back to the vibe and finding what you feel like. And to me, Warrior, it's a festival, it's a pep rally, it's a carnival. It's very in your face, fun. It's about the audience. It's not about the wrestlers, if that makes sense. It's more about the audience and how they experience it and how they're pulled in. And I think you guys do that really well with the way you shoot it.
So this might be the most important question that we ask you tonight. But between me, Martin, and Nick, who's your favorite and why is it Tiff and not any of us? So
yeah, so I mean it's definitely Tiffany, because if I don't say Tiffany, she'll hurt me. So that goes without saying. But I think we've found this groove, and you guys know from the production calls we do before the shows, right? Like we found a groove where everybody knows what they do it well, they execute it well. It's a really good flow of how everybody works together, and it's just really cool that we found this this groove, this vibe that we know what we do now. And it took a lot of different iterations and different people coming in and out for different reasons, but we know what we do, we know who does what, and now we just got to go do it.
Yeah, and if you don't, Tiff will yell at you. It's fine, and I love her for it.
What's your favorite Warrior show?
Oh my God. I've wrestled with this throughout the years. There's different ones for different reasons. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of shows where it's over and later that night, Eric and I are like, this is the best show we've ever done. And they kind of compete with each other. I think this January in South Bend was amazing. I think this February in Talia Hall was amazing. Mm-hmm. Warrior 6 was really, really good. That was after the original that was after All Out, after AEW launched. Warrior 6 was really good. Warrior 7 was amazing. That was the Rascals versus Chaos. That was Cage versus ELP, Suzuki versus Lawler, Archer versus Pillman. That one was just really, really good. There are chunks of the original Friday Night Lights in the Stadium series that I thought were unbelievable as well, that everything really came together. So I'd say probably January, the January one in South Bend, the February one in Talia were really good. All the South Bend ones have been great. That venue is just so awesome, and the vibe is so cool there. Yeah, I don't know if I could pick one, but those are, of the 29 we've done, those are probably the 4 or 5 that stand out. For me, it's all about the vibe, right? Like it's about feeling like we've just crushed it for the audience. And that's what you can have the best show in the world, but if the audience isn't going out of their minds, it doesn't matter how great the wrestling is if it hasn't hit them and pulled them in. And we want them to leave just thrilled. And so that's the goal. The shows where people walk out on cloud 9, you feel really good about it.
Honestly, I feel like the January one was like the one that I felt like the way you were talking about, like the one in January, after seeing like Vikingo, it's like, I was like, man, like I'm going to retire after this show, because it was it was such a great match. You know, like the whole show in general, but like that match for me was like one of my favorite matches of the night for me personally.
Yeah. I mean, the Vikingo match, the Buddy Matthews versus Casey Navarro match, Takeshita versus Zach Wentz, like it just Daniels versus Eli Knight. There were so many different things we did on that card, and so for me, show flow and match order is really important. And when we put promos and where you put them and what goes after what and what are the finishes, because you want to build this show that just gets better and better and better and takes people on this ride. And I'm just really proud of the construction of that card and everything that we wanted to hit on that card. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger until Vikingo leapt off that wall and the place just came unglued. And Eric and I were in the tunnel and we looked at each other and Eric was like, we need to retire after this, right? Like it's over. We're just not going to top this.
Some of those moments are my favorite moments at Warrior shows where like we're in the tunnel at South Bend or we're on the sideline at Marion or wherever we are. And I look over at you and Eric and it doesn't matter the team member. We're all just being fans and we're going, holy shit, just like everybody else is. And like seriously, like I say it all the time, but like just put the stuff in my veins, dude. Like I love this. I love this thing that we do. And like those are my favorite times. I think my rapid fire question for you would be there's a theme with people who work for Warrior that is very public. We all go, this is the greatest place we've ever worked for. And we all love each other, like literally love each other. Was that intentional or was that just because Uncle Eric gives good hugs and that's why we all show up? You know what I mean? Like, do you know what I'm trying to ask you? Like,
yeah. Well, I think part of it is, Eric and I have done so much over the years. We ran a comedy group for a decade, an improv and sketch comedy group. I've been a principal of a school for a decade. Eric's been an administrator and a teacher. We've done so much at like organizing things and administrating things that we know stuff we've been at that's been run poorly, and we know stuff we've been at that's been run well. And so when we started it, we just wanted to run it well. We ran it like we would run a school thing, right? Like we catered food for people. We welcomed people. We were polite to folks. We had a clear like agenda and like stuff to hand out, any information you would need. Like part of it is that, right? We had like gifts for a lot of the first ones, right? Like we made pint glasses, and this might have been before you, Henry, but like we had like magnets and fun little things that we gave everybody that were kind of not expensive, but there were things to just be like, hey, thanks for working the show, everybody. Here's a Warrior magnet for everybody, that kind of a thing. And so part of it was that we just wanted to run it well. Part of it too, though, is that an organization is the shadow of its leadership. And we want to have, Eric and I want to have fun, right? Like we're not there to take out our anger on the world. We're not there to like, live vicariously through some wrestler or whatever. We're there because we love this and we love putting on shows, whether that was theater shows, comedy shows, whatever. We love doing things for an audience and creating a vibe where people come to have fun. And so if it's not fun for us and we're not loving it, we're not going to do it anymore. And so we love it. We have fun. Like you mentioned a minute ago, we're just fans, right? Like some of those, to be totally selfish, right? Some of the greatest parts of Warrior is standing next to my best friend of 25 years, whatever it's been, and just having the time of our lives. And so I think some of that just translates, right? Like I think everybody sees we're happy to be there. We are not, grumpy about something or trying to prove something, whatever. We're as jazzed up as everybody else is to be there. And I think that trickles down.
Yeah, so true. No, yeah, like I totally agree. Because it's like when I go to Warrior, it's like me and Henry are always like serious, but like we're always goofing around, like talking crap to each other. It's like, because it's like, I feel like Warrior has become like a family. It's like we all take care of each other. We all care about each other, but we still bully each other. It's like we all bully each other in different ways. It's like Nick, like I bully Nick, or Henry bullies Nick. It's like it's a family environment. It's like I feel like it's a family. It's like I feel like I like everybody who works there. At Warrior. It's like I feel like we all connected because of the way we are. So I love Warrior for that reason.
dude. And I'm proud of that, and I love that, and that's part of why I love doing it, right? Because if we'd done it 5 times and we hated it, we weren't going to do it anymore. But we love coming back and seeing all you guys and hanging out and getting the thing done, and making something special.
So before we talk about, because we're almost out of time, before we talk about the next time that we all get together, which is on the 30th of June, but I want to ask you one more random question. What in the 29, gonna be 30 shows, we've learned a lot production-wise.
Yeah.
What is the number one thing that like maybe you guys didn't think through at the beginning, but you learned along the way now?
That is a great question. I'll focus on live event stuff first because that's where my bread and butter is, and then we'll talk video production in a second. I think that the vibe, sometimes lights and sound are the difference between good and great. Other times you don't need lights and sound as much. It depends on your audience and the vibe and what you're doing. So, for example, if you guys remember when we went to Tinley Park in December of 2019, we were in the convention center, and we went back to like an all-black room, crazy lights in production, and it just felt different. It felt loud. It felt crazy. And actually, so here's something I learned from a wrestler. Actually, Henry will hate this because it makes the room darker. A wrestler said early on, once we were experimenting with different lighting setups, they're like, make it as dark as possible. And I said, really? Why? And they said, audiences, when it's dark, feel more comfortable yelling, saying things, going a little bit crazier because they're in the darkness and everybody else can't see them. When they're more illuminated, they're less likely to do something crazy that might be embarrassing or shout something or whatever. So if they're in darkness and the show is on the stage, the audience tends to be louder and more vocal. And there's sometimes when that has worked really well to our advantage. There's been other times where we go the opposite, right? Like the stadium show, everyone's under the lights, right? You can see everything. So I think that's something that we've learned about playing with lighting and sound for how to make it feel big and how to make stuff feel special and important. On the production end, I think so when we did Warrior 2, we were like the first broadcast in a couple of years on high spots because they tried stuff before and then they got out of it, and then we got back into it with them. Same thing when we went to Fight. Like we were one of the first pro wrestling promotions to go back on Fight, and now everybody and their mother's on Fight. When we were some of the first ones, you didn't need that much slick in the way of production for video streaming because just being able to see it on the internet was amazing, right? And this is only 5 years ago, but it was like a different world. Now I think there's a value in quality production. So the video packages Henry puts together, shout out to Brian Lowry, the graphics that Brian makes, everything that makes it look like you're watching a TV production is important in this day and age because every indie promotion is on the internet because they hook up somebody's iPhone and they broadcast it live, right? So now you need to look like the quality of program that you're trying to put out. And if you don't, it sticks out.
Steve, ramble something about the show coming up on the 30th.
Matt Cardona challenges Casey Navarro for the Warrior Wrestling World Championship. The indie god himself, 7 indie championships, currently busting the seams of his luggage and his gear bag. Is he going to add an 8th? I can't think of a more compelling title match than Casey Navarro defending against the guy he idolized when he was 11 years old, who's coming to collect all the belts. Number 2, Takeshita and Warhorse, the most badass Cinnabon-loving, now evildoer in AEW, returns to Warrior Wrestling, first time in Chicago, meet him in the Fan Fest, and he faces Warhorse, a guy who is criminally underrated for the quality of his wrestling.